Welcome back, everybody, to The Link. It is a gorgeous Wednesday morning, and we are going to go out to a very gorgeous friend of ours who I personally have not heard from some time, so it's always good catching up with Rlene Steffy, our cultural ethnographer and truly a master storyteller, if there ever was one. Rlene, good morning, Hafaday, and it is so good to see you after such a long time.
Good morning. My goodness, you give me too much praise. I don't deserve that. I'm not the storyteller. You have to remember, I merely capture the story and then produce it and share it. I'm not the storyteller.
Well, okay, fair enough. But I mean, you are very, very good at it. And as I was saying before, and I've interviewed you, several dozens of times over the years, in your work as a journalist, as a show host, as a columnist, and everything like that, you always go for bringing our people the truth about who we are, where we came from, and where we're going, and that is to be commended.
I try my best. Thank you.
Okay, I want to talk about like your brand new creation. I know, as everything that you do, you've were one of the early people. I remember when I was IT&E, you were one of the early people to really start the online business. You've gotten into video of recent years. But I want to talk about this bird story and fitting how you've got that virtual background right there. We sent Isaiah Uggan down there to interview, and he said he had the time of his life just talking to you, and he goes, man, Jace, do you know Miss Steffy? I was like, oh yeah, she's a very dear friend of mine. He's like, man, she really, really is into birds, and she knows a lot. So give us kind of like the summary version. What did you learn about those curious birds that are down in Malesso?
You don't have enough time on this show.
And we're on for 4 hours.
That's why we're doing this series. Marie and I have been talking about, I've been planning on this for 15 years, and everything takes precedent because this is a personal project for me. But I have learned more about us and about creation in observation of the birds. So I just completely, I'm immersed when I'm out there, Jason. I can't explain the connection because it's almost surreal. There's nothing that can come between me and the birds when I'm out there. I'm mesmerized by their behavior. And of course, I apply anthropomorphic expressions and description because I don't know any other way to express what they're doing or describe what they're doing, especially to convey that to someone who is not aware of the birds or even see the birds. People see them now.
How would you describe their behavior now, especially since, we did that story over the weekend, because obviously that's going to draw some people to pass by and just see, oh, I know Rlene. I want to see what these birds are like. Did they seem to be comfortable? Are they now territorial and they consider that part of the island, their own, and they're going to defend it? Or are they, kind of like a little bit almost like withdrawn?
Well, the question I often get, like Isaiah asked, are they territorial? And the answer is no. We are specifically speaking about the fahang. The fahang that are nesting down at Malesso are called black noddy in English. Now, the Chamorro word for fahang includes the brown noddies as well. And these are part of the terns. These birds are related to the white tern and the black nape terns. So they're terns, but they have a specific name. What does fahang mean? That's anyone's guess again, because all the bird names usually are related to either the call of the bird, the sound, which is the sound they make, or the activities or something. You know how Chamorros are, they nickname you, right? And so our names for the birds have been named by our ancestors long before I was even thought about. So I didn't come up with those names, and those names I found in the Topping Dictionary and other research material. And then I sent it down to Ecomishon and asked Rosa Palomo, who's the chair of the committee on those, on the orthographic, I get it confused with ornithology, but orthographic spelling for these words, because I wanted to use it in my work, but I wanted to use the correct way of spelling it. Now, there's a struggle between how we spell it and Saipan, of course, but the point is that I live on Guam and I do things Guam's way. So we got a list of the birds and I share it with birders and I share it with other scientists, and they've begun to use it. And it's very important because if you're in Palau or in any other country, you're going to use the local name for birds, trees, shrubs, plants, etc. So I don't think it should be any different on Guam. And I think people are beginning to adopt that pride in the sense that, hey, we have a name for this bird. And also that they're there and they can see them. So territorial, no, they are not anything like the Salin Taiwan, which is the black drongo. The black drongo is a very territorial bird, very aggressive bird. The Noddies have a name given to them by the sailors because of their passiveness. They're almost, they say, pluck them out of their nest.
Wow.
I don't find that to be true. They actually flush when you get too close to them. They do have a comfort distance. I've been testing it a little bit, and I can come about 5 feet of them before they flush. But when they're on their nest, they are protective of the egg or
of course,
the
yeah.
chick. And yeah, just like when you get near a culeca, which is a chicken with the chicks, she's not gonna give that up. She's gonna defend it.
Yeah.
So,
and, I mean, any animal, birds in particular, you go near their young, they're going to defend you until their death. I mean, you would expect that.
right. Yeah.
And,
so, but
and is there
territorial
anything more tomorrow than a good female defending her offspring?
You try and hurt my kids and find out.
Exactly. I would never even attempt. The thought would never even cross my mind.
Of course, they're very capable of taking care of themselves now.
I do have a question for you because when we were telling people at the top of the show that you were coming on, we got at least one really good comment from someone named Cindy Brewer, and she was saying she heard a theory that maybe the reason, and I know part of your fascination with these birds isn't just the what but the why, and that's kind of like where you've staked your claim in our community. And Cindy was asking, and she goes, she heard a rumor possibly that there were Australian pines that were cut down at Cocos Island. And then that's where these birds would habitate. And then because they had no place to perch, essentially, that's what drew them to Malesso. Do you have any evidence that would support that or dispute that?
Well, you said it's a rumor.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's a rumor, if it's not substantiated, it really is part of the problem that I have so much work to do.
Mm-hmm.
I call what I'm beginning to call it cultural what's the term? I had to make it up. I was thinking about it. Troubleshooting, because everyone, especially with social media, and I'm a real fan of it as well. But there are drawbacks to social media. As a journalist, I do not put anything out unless I refer to research material or confer with other people who know what they're talking about. Now, the question about why is the fahang at Malesso, it's all speculation because nobody really knows. However, when I went to Donald a week and a half ago, I went out there when Martin Kastner had a tour. I was asked to do a presentation at the terrestrial conservation conference that just occurred recently, and I went out there, but I didn't go to be part of the tour. I went out there to see if the black noddies were nesting, and they are. And they're the only tree that was cut down that I could see at Donald was a Chongkongagu, which is the pine tree, or the ironwood tree in the middle of the resort. Now, all the other trees on the east side of the island, because the island is situated along the shore, the reef line, where the west towered, the mouth of the harbor, and east towered in Alahan. There's pine trees across the entire island at Donald. The Chongkongagu on the west side are the location for the white tern nesting, and the sali is a cavern. They nest in what do they call them? Little like holes in the tree. So they will nest on that
like
side,
a woodpecker.
But, no, they don't peck it out.
Like a woodpecker, they
take
would
advantage of what's already there.
Yeah, okay.
But the fahang, the black noddies, are nesting on the ironwood tree of the troncongago on the east side of Dano. The brown noddies are not nesting at Dano at the moment. They're nesting all along the islets from Dano to Upper Harbor. And when I went and did my survey of Upper Harbor on Monday, thousands of brown noddies are nesting.
Wow. Well, tell you what, birds are not the only member of the animal species that you have taken a keen interest in. Your new show, it actually takes a look at another species. So can you give us the overview? We actually have your teaser, so we're going to actually play the video while we're talking and everything.
Okay.
But can I give us an overview of your show, what led to your motivation for doing it, and what does it cover?
Well, I coin it from feathers to fins because now
there might be a business down in Agana that may that may have something in common with you.
Right, feathers and fins.
Exactly.
That's right. I forgot about that. So what happened? It all started in about 2009. Both projects actually, or at least amassing the data for them. I became a research associate at the University of Guam by appointment by Dr. Liu Dean, who was the acting president at the time, at the advice and request of Professor or Dr. John Peterson. John Peterson at the time was the director of MARC, and he wanted me to be a research associate. And so when I was appointed, one of the first projects that I was brought on for or recommended for was by Dr. Alex Kerr at the Marine Lab. He was a professor, associate professor at the time, I believe. I think he's full now. But he recommended me to Levine, Ariel Levine, who was a scientist with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. And she contacted me and said they wanted me to interview fishermen because the preserves were, becoming an issue. And most of the policies, Jason, that affect fishermen or affect local people are not made at the local level. They're made at the higher level. And
right.
But they wanted to be sensitive to the concerns of these fishermen who it would immediately impact. They were the first line or front line, if you will. And so we sat down and they contracted me to go out and interview on Guam only because somebody else was doing the NMI. And there were several concerns of first, the relationship that the individual fisherman had to fishing. Was it his primary income? Was it his what family tradition? Why was he fishing? Where he was fishing? What was he fishing for? The methods he was using, et cetera, et cetera. And then the local reaction to the movement, the preserve movement. That I was on the air at K57 doing what you're doing right now as a talk show host and interviewing everybody that I could about the impact that fish preserves would have. And naturally, whenever you change a course of way of life, you're going to get pushback. And that's what we got. Huge pushback. I think in retrospect, we can say today that everyone embraces the idea of preserves and that there is a value. It's like having a nursery. You need a place to, improve the stock. You need to give a woman time for her body to get back to normal before she has another kid. One of the things that I learned when I was collecting oral history of World War II survivors is the age at which our women were dying. They were dying very young, in their 40s, because some of them would have 13 children by the time she was 40 and like pregnant. Wow. 1 year after another. It was one of the things that will be coming up in my other project, which is Hagan Haga, the Women of the Blood, Daughters of the Blood. And I've interviewed, I think, 40 women for that project. But in correlation, just to show, if we take how we're affected as humans and apply that to how natural life responds in the cycle, everything has a cycle. And so when you live on a cycle, you have to give pause to the natural development in order to have healthy brood.
That is a
Now,
stunningly effective analogy, R. I mean,
oh,
I've
thank
never
you.
actually heard that correlation been made, but yeah, that really drives home the point. And you would expect, and I'm sure you would agree and support this, that as Pacific Islanders, we have a greater natural sensitivity to anything that comes with the ocean, especially when it comes to fishing, to overfishing. I mean, you watch any documentary on Netflix right now, and on the ocean, and at some point, it's going to tell you um, the commercialization and overfishing and everything like that has really had a really strong impact. And certainly
Yeah,
at our micro level out here and everything like that, we can certainly attest to that.
the local use of resources is always impacted severely by commercial drive, and that's the pinch. I think I always say it's not a resource if I can't use it, and I should be the
Very
first
true.
to use it because I'm from here. So any introduction to people to live here, um, I don't take a don't touch attitude necessarily, because I think we need to all assimilate and get along well. But commercial needs and personal needs are not the same kind of need. One is driven strictly by profit and business, and the other is feeding your family.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing is that I did not grow up in a fishing family, but I married a fisherman. And so I became really immersed in how that impacted our family life. My husband has taught all the children how to fish. Every single one of them learned how to fish. As a matter of fact, my Liana was 3 years old when Bob put her on a boat and took her out into the harbor. And I about had a conniption fit. It's like, what are you taking a 3-year-old child out on a boat for?
Oh, my Nino
But
was a lifetime sustainable fisherman. That's how he fed 5 kids and put him through school and gave him a wonderful life.
absolutely, and that's the rub. And so when I did this NOAA project, that is why I agreed to the project, because the concern was at the primary level. It was at the fisherman's level and the fisherman's life level.
Mm-hmm.
It was not at the outward level. And so I thought, okay, I can do this because, Jason, I'm very sensitive about, oh, how do I say this? I don't feel that my job is to defend any position.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that my job is to inform all parties to what's happening, and find a medium, find a acceptable location or place for everyone to benefit.
Well, like
So
I said,
don't
at the top of this interview, as long as I've known you, you always seek and try and communicate the ground truth, and by that merit, you're going to have some detractors, and you always say every time I interview you, and I said, your latest research deals with where our people have come from, or what you've learned recently, like about language or about behavior patterns, and I always ask you, how is this new information received by our Manumco, and you're like, generally they accept it. You also get some criticism, and I think that's fair.
I if I don't get criticism about what I'm doing, if I can't touch the nerve of the viewers or those that I'm working with, then I'm not doing any work that's beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am making them think, feel, and react to what I'm doing. And this project was no different, by the way, which is a very important point to make. The fishermen in the CNMI were not hesitant about sharing what they knew about fishing, where they fish, how they fish. All of that was like, no problem. Carte blanche. They were on Guam. What are they going to use this for? Who's going to take it? Why should I tell you? Oh man. But
so speaking of like the birds being territorial, perhaps, right?
Absolutely. And I think that my personal relationships with people and my reputation for being fair finally convinced them. But there are some things that I had to keep out of the project because it is a method that they developed in order to be successful at fishing. So anything that we agreed, okay, can this be released? I work with whomever I'm interviewing to find their comfort level and what they're able to share, and that's what I run with.
Well, Aaron, I've never known you to back away from like any story, and again, that's a very good thing to see in our community. I got to let you run because we got another interview coming up. But now that we've told people what it's about, please tell people where they can find it and when.
Okay, well, it's going to run first, I believe, on KOAM. Marie
right.
told me it will run on the 11th. It's also going to air on the legislative channel, and we've all agreed to put it on YouTube.
Fantastic.
Because we need this to be seen publicly. So I believe it's going to be on KOAM's YouTube channel as well as Micronesia Publishing's YouTube channel.
So if it's okay with you, we'd certainly like to run it on this show too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Of course.
Okay, so when we do, we'll have you back on, and you can tell us more about the episode and then what some of the feedback has been to that.
I'm available at your beck and call.
Oh, thank you so much, Rlene. Hey, it's really good catching up with you and everything. And I am going to take you up on your offer. I want to check out your garden.
Come by. Let me know when you're coming. So
okay,
I can sweep it.
All right, thanks so much. Congratulations again. Adios.
Thank you. Thank you very
All
much.
right, 7:17. We're going to take a quick break, and we're back with more of The Link next. Good morning.
KUAM's multi-platform morning show, The Link, just got a little more delicious.